Welcome to Smacky's Garage. Today we're going to be installing this front air dam spoiler on our 1969 Mustang. Looking at the history of these spoilers on cars, I don't believe they were actually installed on the cars at Ford. I believe they were actually installed at the dealerships. They came in the trunk of the vehicle and they had to screw them in and install them to the front. This is a reproduction one that I got from National Parts Depot. And on some of the 69s, it looks like there was only 3 original holes here, and then others had to be drilled. I don't know if they were all drilled back in the day, so the screws that go all the way around the outside, but this one is not, so we're gonna have to do some work to it. We're gonna walk through test fitting the spoiler. We're gonna make sure that it fits with the front license plate, because here in Massachusetts, you need to have a front license plate. We're gonna make sure that everything fits well, and then we're gonna end up drilling the holes. I think what we're going to end up doing is, when you put it on, it's 3 bolts, 1, 2, and 3 that go underneath the front valence. Those screw holes are already there. And then we need to drill 14 holes along the side of this and 14 holes on the bottom side of the car. Not my favorite thing to do, but we're going to go ahead and do it because I really like the way that these look on the vehicles. All right, what I'm going to do first is I'm going to take these 3 holes, 1, 2, and 3, and I'm going to bolt it up to the car so we can see how everything fits, what the contour looks like against the vehicle. So those 3 holes are going to line up with 1, 2 in the center, and then a third one right there. So I'm going to go ahead and screw these in and see how they fit. This bottom one in the center goes to a cage nut or the install nut on the bottom of the hood bracket. Take the screw, slot it right back in place. We'll get the last one in over here. And what I'm finding out is it's easier to put your hand in and screw it in from the bottom while feeling in here. All right, so the fit doesn't look too bad on the car. I think it looks pretty good, but you can definitely see that there's gaps and everything around it. All right, now to take it off, and we're gonna end up drilling the holes in it to get it ready to go on the car. One of the things I noticed while doing this, I'm definitely going to have to get the car up in the air to be able to drill underneath here to make it clean, at least with the drill that I have. If you have a right angle drill, you might be able to make it work. So let's go ahead and put the holes in this, then get the car in the air. All right, now that we have this off the car, we have to start drilling the holes. So to install this, you're going to need to drill holes all across the bottom here. When we're looking at it, there's going to be 4 holes on the outside. 3 holes here, 3 holes here, and then another 4 holes over there. That's going to be a total of 14 different self-tapping screws that we need to put in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark each one of these holes before we drill it with a Sharpie paint pen. These are good if you're doing work on something dark where it's really hard to see the color. So I'm just going to be eyeballing it. I'm not going to do it perfectly. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3. All right, so I didn't get the recording of the drilling, but we'll take a look. So these are all drilled out exactly where I wanted them to be. Oops, still wet. 1, 2, 3, 4, that hole. 1, 2, 3, that hole. 1, 2, 3, that hole. 1, 2, 3, 4. You'll notice I moved some of these towards the edge. And the reason why I moved them towards the edge is because I'm going to end up having to use a right angle screwdriver to get those in place. All right, now that I have all these done, I'm just going to wipe the paint dry. Oh, shit. So I'm going to give it a few minutes for the paint to dry before I try moving it so nothing drips on any of the surfaces. I don't want to get paint on it. But the brush did a good job at taking off that white paint. If you've never done this before, by taking this larger drill bit and just going around the outside, it gets all the fray off of it, just so that it'll be nice and smooth. It's essentially like you're filing it down. Okay, so now that we're completely flat, we're going to get ready to put this back on the car. And to do that, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put the car up on ramps, because that'll make it easier for me to get under there and drill. All right, so this is going to make it a lot easier being up in the air on ramps. Gives me plenty of room for clearance now underneath it. On a 1970 Mustang, the spoiler is actually not in the same location. It's 4 inches higher than the location where this one is going to be installed. For the 70, you need to drill all new holes and you need to locate it in a different place. There's a few good videos on YouTube if you're doing it on that one, so I'd recommend looking at those. Now this is going back on. Now I can tell my bumper isn't bent perfectly, or either that or this plastic isn't bent perfectly or shaped perfectly, because of it's not going on that easy. Definitely has some clearance, well, more clearance on this side than the other side did. All right, so I completely screwed up recording that part, but I'm going to talk through how I drilled in place and what I found out, what worked the best and what didn't. So working through installing it, having those 3 bolts that are already in place, that we put in place earlier, worked out well to hold it and line everything up. Because of that, it made it easy to line it up on both sides to make sure they were even. From there, I worked from the inside out, putting the screws in and drilling the holes. So I started drilling, I drilled the 3 center ones first on either side, and then I ended up putting those screws in to make sure everything was still lining up as you move further and further away from the center, from where the bolts are. And it worked out really well. I'm really happy with the way that it turned out. There's an even gap on either side, and there's no gap in between the lower valence and the black plastic, the air dam that we installed. So it came out good. I'm really happy with the way it looks. Thanks for tuning in today on Smacky's Garage. I'll see you next time.